Hello and welcome to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Saltner in our Washington, D.C. studio. We have a special show for you this week, a new interview with a Catholic congressman from Capitol Hill and a number of profiles of people who are building up a culture of life. Stories like this. We follow along with a doctor who says the future of pro-life family medicine is an old-fashioned house call. We hear about a ministry that serves men and women affected by abortion, offering them hope and healing. And this story.
I had a problem with my bones, so I had to get amputated.
We'll take you to a camp for children and families with limb loss that brings them together so they know they are not alone. But first, in major pro-life news, the Senate fails to pass the pain-capable Unborn Child Protection Act. The bill would ban abortions after 5 months of pregnancy when science shows unborn babies feel pain. The bill had passed the House of Representatives, and President Donald Trump has promised he would sign it into law if it came to his desk. But the bill simply did not have enough pro-life votes in the Senate. We'll have more on how you can respond to this disappointing result in just a bit. But now we're going to go to a recent interview I had with a pro-life Catholic congressman, where we discuss pro-life accomplishments in this administration so far and the importance of passing life-affirming legislation. January marks 1 year since President Donald Trump took office. Congressman, what have you made of this administration's pro-life accomplishments so far?
I'm very pleased with the pro-life work that this administration has been done. This was a big issue during the campaign. We saw a number of issues that we were very concerned with under the previous administration. The Mexico City policy, for example, not controlling taxpayer funds and how they're being spent overseas, and the Mexico City policy, very important policy that bans the use of taxpayer dollars to promote abortion overseas. That was reinstated by President Trump. We saw an issue with my own diocese in Pittsburgh, forcing Catholic institutions, Little Sisters of the Poor, the Diocese of Pittsburgh, to have the contraceptive mandate, abortion-causing drugs in health care plans that violate their conscience. The administration recognized the importance of religious liberty. Religious liberty is very important in the foundation of our country. It's the very first freedom that we recognize in the Constitution. You look at the First Amendment, it's the free exercise of religion that is the number one. This country was founded by people who wanted to have religious freedom.
The House of Representatives has passed a number of pieces of pro-life legislation, and then they get stuck in the Senate. Congressman, is there any way to get around this gridlock? Can our viewers expect pro-life bills that pass the House to ever become law?
Well, every single one of your viewers needs to get on the phone and call their senator's office and encourage them to take up this legislation. We have senators who have said that they're pro-life. We need to see that what they're going to do to follow through on that commitment.
Bishop Zubik's office is in your Pennsylvania district. You mentioned that. And as a quick reminder for our viewers, Zubik versus Burwell was the Supreme Court case challenging the contraceptive mandate. Congressman, what did that case tell us about the need for conscience protection?
Well, it tells us a lot. I mean, we talk about the power of this government in Washington, D.C., and to have a big government push around religious charities. The Catholic Church has done remarkable work in this country from the very beginning. You look at Elizabeth Ann Seton and the schools and the hospitals, the work that the Catholic Church has done with free health clinics. We have a free health clinic right in downtown Pittsburgh. You want those institutions to flourish, to thrive. These are institutions that are following the dictates of their conscience. That's something that should be celebrated. I come from Pennsylvania. William Penn, the founder of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, very insistent on the protection of conscience, and it's good to see that we are finally getting some relief. I think we have to push forward with legislation to protect individuals. We had a group of nurses recently on the Hill talking with us who were forced to participate in abortions. This was very traumatic for them. They did not want to participate in those procedures that violated their conscience. They should have their conscience rights protected.
Congressman Keith Rothfus of Pennsylvania, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you again to the Congressman for his time. On EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, we want to encourage pro-lifers to unite and help get life-affirming legislation passed. We can do this by raising our voice and showing our support for pro-life bills. And the way to be involved in doing this is with our call to action. The U.S. Senate voted and failed to pass the pain-capable Unborn Child Protection Act. This is a bill that would have stopped abortions after 5 months of pregnancy, a point at which science shows unborn babies feel pain. It's a bill a majority of Americans support, for one, because the United States is only one of 7 nations that allows abortion on demand in the 5th month of pregnancy. But this common sense bill, one that President Trump said he would sign into law, did not pass the Senate. Where does that leave us? Well, here's what you can do now. Go to prolifeweekly.com to send a message to your senators. If your senator voted to pass the pain-capable bill, your message will thank them. If your senator voted against this popular common sense bill, the call to action will send a message of disappointment. This is how it works. Go to prolifeweekly.com, fill in your basic personal information. So this message is tailored to you and your senators, and click to send in your message. We need to thank, support, and encourage our senators who voted to pass the pro-life, pain-capable bill. But our senators who voted against this, who voted in favor of late-term abortion when babies can feel pain, well, we need to tell those senators enough is enough, and we are disappointed in their vote. Remember, this bill already passed the House of Representatives, and President Trump promised to sign it into law. The Senate was the missing link, and they failed the pro-life community. Take action now. Go to prolifeweekly.com to send in your message to your senators. In major pro-life news, the president of Planned Parenthood confirms she is stepping down.
I'm announcing that I will be stepping down from my position as president of Planned Parenthood this year.
Cecile Richards' announcement comes after reports speculating the departure from the nation's largest abortion industry. Under her leadership of more than 10 years, Pap tests at Planned Parenthood went down by 74%. Cancer screenings went down by 67%. But the number of abortions rose by 21%. Planned Parenthood regularly puts out propaganda and talking points for abortion advocates. Our next guest is known for responding to those common talking points and leaving people speechless after abortion debates. Take a look at a recent interview with Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief of The Daily Wire, who tells us how he argues the pro-life view. Ben, you are a graduate of Harvard Law School. You were the youngest nationally syndicated columnist in the U.S. You're a smart man. What convinced you ultimately to become pro-life yourself?
So it really began with science for me. So I'm a religious Jew. Religious Jews are pro-life. So from a biblical standpoint, the support for the pro-life position is pretty strong. But it really is science that I find to be the best argument and the most convincing argument. And as you see 3D and 4D ultrasounds, as you see the development of a child in the womb, as you realize that every argument against the pro-life position is based on false premises that could be applied to fully grown adults, then you begin to see that either the line is drawn with conception or isn't drawn at all. And that tends to be the way the argument goes.
Ben, because you're known for your ability to answer tough questions, we thought we'd do a quick rapid-fire Q&A with you on common abortion claims our viewers might face. How does that sound?
Sure, sounds good.
All right, claim 1. Abortion is only 3% of Planned Parenthood's business, and they do a lot of good for women. Your response?
Yeah, so number one, that's not true. As far as 3% of their business, supposedly the idea is that 3% of all services provided by Planned Parenthood are abortions. But they include in those services things like handing out condoms, things like regular screenings. The fact is that of the actual operations performed by Planned Parenthood, something like 95% of all of those operations are done by Planned Parenthood, and Planned Parenthood provides 300 to 400,000 abortions a year. So it all depends on the metric that you're using, but to suggest that Planned Parenthood is not in the abortion business is simply false.
Claim 2, a fetus in the first trimester doesn't have moral value.
Again, if you want to make the claim that a fetus doesn't have moral value in the first trimester, you'd have to explain when a human being develops moral value. Is it with a heartbeat? Because there are plenty of people who are living off a pacemaker. Is it with lung function? Because there are plenty of people who are on iron lungs. Is it with brain function? Because you're asleep, right, sometimes, and when you're a newborn baby, your brain function is not particularly high. So when exactly do you draw this line? And if you draw the line anywhere other than conception, you have to explain why it doesn't apply to people who you would consider a normal human being who shouldn't be killed.
Finally, claim 3, and this is a common one. It doesn't matter what you believe about abortion. You don't have the right to impose your pro-life views on another woman's body. How do you respond to that?
Now, that's just as foolish as arguing that it's none of my business whether you beat a dog in your backyard. It's not my dog. I don't have anything to do with your backyard. If you decide that the dog is worthy of beating, what's to stop you from doing it? Am I the great moral arbiter? The answer is we make these moral judgments all the time when we see a violation of moral law, and it is a violation of moral law to kill another human being, which is why we have murder laws.
Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire, thank you for your time.
Thanks so much.
From talking the talk to walking the walk, pro-lifers are on the forefront of medicine, caring for people at birth through natural death. We go now to the story of one doctor pushing for a completely alternative approach to how we receive health care. She claims the future of medicine means bringing it back to basics. Take a look.
You know, even though we call ourselves modern mobile medicine, in many ways, we're going back to the way medicine used to be.
Dr. Marguerite Duane doesn't have a physical clinic, but with her medical knowledge and skills and what she dubs her Mommobile, Duane takes her life-affirming direct primary medical care on the road.
Since the patient is paying directly, I'm working for the patient. So I'm not thinking, what do I need to do in this visit so that I can bill the insurance company so the insurance company can pay me?
Modern mobile medicine patients pay Dr. Duane a monthly fee, like a cell phone bill, to get access to her, whether it's for an in-person visit, an over-the-phone question, or even a Skype consultation. John Reardon works for the State Department, but before taking off for Mali, he meets with Dr. Duane for a minor surgical procedure.
We really like the convenience, of course, of not having to go to the doctor's office to receive medical care, but more importantly is the relationship that we're building over time.
Dr. Duane serves anyone of any religion, but being a Catholic, Reardon says his wife is grateful the DC doctor can understand the importance of their family's faith.
She really very much appreciates not having our faith questioned, or even, she's being made to feel uncomfortable about particular things, like, of course, our decision to use NFP.
Patients don't need to travel and wait in line for Dr. Duane's medical services. She drives straight to them, like an old-fashioned house call.
How are you? Good. How are you doing? Good. Did you get my text? Yes, thank you.
Being a direct primary medical care giver, Dr. Duane isn't dependent on low insurance reimbursements. This means she sees fewer patients each day compared to most doctors and can get to know her patients more personally, including the 4 Lindquist children ages 4 and under.
You know what makes you beautiful? What's inside of you. Jesus makes you beautiful.
She checks up on the children in the comfort of their own home.
Can you do that? Whoa! Lift it up. Awesome.
And in the comfort of their mother's arms. The young patients offer their reviews.
Benny, what do you make of having a doctor come to the house?
Not so sure, huh?
While the 4-year-old boy isn't certain, his mother, Kelly Lindquist, is sold on the direct primary care model.
When you have sick kids and they're tired, they don't want to get out of bed or be removed from where they're comfortable, and you have to take them all to a doctor's office where, again, other sick kids have been, and then they're like, maybe you have some healthy kids and then they get sick with this other thing, and then it's like a never-ending process.
Dr. Duane recommends families rethink their health care coverage and only opt for catastrophic health insurance to cover the unexpected expensive costs, or join a health sharing ministry like CMF Curo if they want direct primary care.
Family is the foundation of our society, and if your family is not well, physically, emotionally, spiritually, how can we be functioning members of our society and give back? It really restores that doctor-patient relationship. So for me as a doctor, I am working to take care of you and your needs. And obviously your most important need is your life and your well-being. And my goal is to make sure you're living the best, healthiest life possible.
For this doctor, the future of pro-life family medicine means better health care for the home, in the home.
All right, we'll see you soon. Bye.
Very soon.
When we come back,
the Lord Jesus came to heal us, to forgive our sins, the divine physician.
Project Rachel brings hope and healing to men and women affected by abortion. Stay tuned as EWTN Pro-Life Weekly continues after this break. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Katherine Seltner. With every abortion, there is a huge loss, a loss that many post-abortive mothers and fathers will eventually feel. For those experiencing that grief after an abortion, you should know there is hope. Here's our story about Project Rachel.
There's the unfortunate notion out there that the Catholic Church condemns not only the act of abortion, but the individual, and that is just not true.
Many individuals who choose to abort a baby experience unresolved grief and guilt, which can carry major consequences. Women who have aborted have an 81% higher risk of subsequent mental health problems compared to other women, are 138% more likely to have mental health problems than women who have given birth. And post-abortive mothers have higher rates of anxiety, depression, alcohol use and misuse, marijuana use, and suicidal behavior.
The Lord Jesus came to heal us, to forgive our sins, the divine physician.
Mary McCluskey wants post-abortive mothers and anyone else impacted by abortion to know they are not alone and there is help. She works on Project Rachel Ministry for the U.S. Bishops' Conference. A post-abortion healing ministry, Project Rachel is open to anyone of any faith experiencing emotional or spiritual pain after an abortion.
Specially trained priests, a ministry team, and therapists offer such healing opportunities as, of course, the priest, confession, but also spiritual guidance. There are referrals to therapists. Many dioceses offer retreats, either weekend or day models, or support groups that meet monthly or weekly for a specific amount of time.
McCluskey emphasizes the ministry integrates both spiritual and psychological dimensions.
Priests will talk about women coming to confession multiple times to confess the same sin again and again and again. That's where the trainings that we do and really educate priests and others, the ministry teams in the diocese, about sometimes typically the need to integrate in the psychological approach as well.
Teresa Hessler was a top advertising executive in Maryland when she found herself at a low point in May of 2015. She was running her own business, newly divorced, and discovered she was pregnant.
I was feeling hopeless and scared of judgment, scared of failure again, scared of being ostracized, loss of job, loss of relationship, tons of different emotions. And I panicked and went and processed it almost like a business decision, and it's very much not. And so I decided to have my abortion in hopes that I could just make it go away.
Immediately feeling grief, Hessler turned to the internet and discovered Project Rachel. Because of the sensitive nature of abortion, Project Rachel is confidential and holds high privacy standards. No one in your parish or local church community will know if you're involved. But Hessler, on her own, wanted to come forward to share her experience with the ministry.
The groups were intimate, and I was amongst peers that were dealing with the same pain and grief that I was, and we were in that journey together. So knowing that I wasn't alone and to learn how to forgive ourselves and knowing that God forgives us was amazing.
For Hessler, much of the healing came swiftly. Just 2 years after first coming to Project Rachel, Hessler is now a pro-life lobbyist and serves as the Director of Administration and Legislation for Maryland Right to Life.
It's a really beautiful thing to see how God has changed my life for the better, and to honor him and my daughter and to really do his work on a daily basis, and to show that pro-life isn't this in-the-box definition, and it's not people that are filled with hatred and judgment, and it's really all about compassion and open arms and love and showing others that they're not alone, whether it's when they find themselves scared and pregnant or when they find themselves grieving the choice of an abortion.
Hessler's witness is a reminder there is always hope.
There are people that care, and they might be a complete stranger at the time, but they're out there.
And hope does not disappoint. We want to reiterate confidentiality is a huge priority for Project Rachel. If you reach out, your church and local community members will not know. To learn more, go to hopeafterabortion.com. The pro-life movement would not be where it is today without the brave men and women who paved the way for us to speak up for life following the 1973 Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision legalizing abortion. We highlight now one of those influential pro-life pioneers. Nearly 90 years old now, Joseph Scheidler has lived a life full of unexpected turns. After years of discerning the priesthood as a young man and then the monastic life in a Benedictine monastery, Scheidler decided in the late 1950s he wasn't suited for a religious vocation and eventually married and had 7 children with his wife of more than 50 years, Anne.
My wife thinks that probably I needed that background because it was all the way through philosophy, theology, and I wanted to be a priest. I think maybe that was partly preparation for fighting the abortion battle.
It was a decision at the U.S. Supreme Court that would put the then public relations professional on yet another unforeseen path when the Roe v. Wade opinion was released in 1973. What impact did that ruling have on you in your life?
And I thought, we've abandoned a whole segment of our people, human beings. They can be killed for any reason up to birth. And I thought, this will destroy the country.
Scheidler decided he needed to leave his PR career behind and work full-time in the pro-life movement. He and his wife founded the Pro-Life Action League, and Scheidler is credited with defining direct pro-life activism. How do you develop what would become pro-life activism? What did you think that would look like?
We knew where the abortions were, and the first thing we did was go to the abortion clinics and try to talk to the women as they would come in. And so we called that sidewalk counseling. And then we started going out on the streets with the pictures.
And is it true that you really thought by showing people the images of what an unborn baby looked like or of what an abortion looked like would change their hearts and minds?
We thought showing the pictures, people would understand this is killing.
But this type of pro-life activism stirred up opposition from the abortion movement. In 1986, the National Organization of Women and a network of abortion facilities sued the Pro-Life Action League for the alleged crime of conspiring to deprive women of abortion. Scheidler was charged with racketeering, or illegal business dealing. It's the namesake of his new memoir, Racketeer for Life.
It didn't make any sense, so we went to the Supreme Court in 1993 and said, can they do this? And the Supreme Court ruled unanimously that they could use the racketeer.
It was a case that dragged on for over 20 years. Then, in 2006, Scheidler won a decisive victory when the case came back to the Supreme Court for the 3rd time.
3rd time. So it's one of the only cases in history that's been before the court 3 times, the Supreme Court. And we won that one unanimously.
Scheidler credits his faith for getting him through his career in the pro-life movement, saying he tries to go to daily mass and often prays the rosary.
Well, it's everything. I think one of the greatest gifts next to life itself is being a Catholic. Religion is absolutely the essence of fighting this battle.
Thank you, Joe Scheidler, for your pro-life leadership. From a story about the older generation to a story now about a special group of kids, one camp teaches children with limb loss about their inherent dignity and how to respond to life's challenges. You may not notice at first glance, but this 11-year-old girl full of life happens to be missing the lower part of her left leg.
I had a problem with my bones, so I had to get amputated.
Tatiana drew a picture one day of a little boy who had a prosthetic leg like hers. And she brought it to us and said, one day I'm going to make a friend that looks like me. We didn't know where we were going to find that little friend. So her big sister did some research and found camp.
That camp they discovered is Camp No Limits. Here, kids without limbs, either from an accident or from birth, can just be kids. Camp activities are both fun and physical therapy.
One of the kids that was there said it was better than going to Disney World.
Camp founder Mary Layton is an occupational therapist who's worked with people of all levels of limb loss. Her goal
is to support the entire family and empower the kids who come.
People may feel sorry for our campers, but for our campers, I don't think that they want them to feel sorry for them. They just learn to adapt. Sometimes in life things happen and you learn to adapt and you just make the best of every situation you can. And I think our campers really strive hard to move past the stares and the comments and things. It makes them a little bit stronger.
It's a mission that's obviously resonating. Layton started Camp No Limits in 2004 with only 4 campers. Today, it's grown to 10 camps nationwide, with people traveling from all over the world to attend. Pedro Pimenta lost all 4 limbs as a teenager in Brazil. He benefited from Camp No Limits and now gives back as a staff member.
And especially for kids, that sense of belonging is very important for them, and being the different kid in the block can be difficult. We're here to eliminate that, to give them a sense of you're normal. And even some kids will bring the best friends over, and the best friends will get educated and go back to school and educate others.
It's that sense of belonging that might be the most valuable part of this camp.
I have always wondered whether I was just alone with my condition, but Camp No Limits has helped me realize that there's a lot of kids out there like me, and it's just a really amazing camp.
7-year-old Logan agrees.
So when I was born, I was missing a bone. So me and my family tried every doctor. Our doctor said that I needed prosthetics. So they cut it out in my feet because it had no bones in it. Camp No Limits is helping me make new friends.
Campers here have learned new lessons.
There's no excuses. No excuses. Do not give up.
Keep going. Keep trying. Never give up.
Formed new friendships. And discover new gifts. Camp No Limits lets these kids forget about what they're missing and to remember what they have.
Thanks for joining us for this special edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. That's it for us. You can reach us anytime with questions, ideas, comments at prolifeweekly@ewtn.com. And remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.